Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of The Drop. Greg Wyshynski, Arda, Öcal, twice weekly on Tuesdays and Thursdays, wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play, as well as the ESPN NHL YouTube channel. And Greg Wyshynski, I couldn't think of a better place to start than the new hotbed of hockey at the start of the season. Detroit Rock City, baby. What a start for the Red Wings.
Hockey Town is back in effect. You know, I often find it cliche to say that certain teams make the NHL better when they're good. You hear that all the time. Like, we need the Rangers to be strong. We need Montreal to be strong. You'd have a better league. And I don't like doing that because I think it's unfair to the newer teams that have come in the last 25 years. That being said, I don't know if it's my age. I don't know if it's one of the best uniforms in all of sports. To see a successful Detroit team, to see a relevant Detroit team, to see a Detroit team that we all of a sudden care about again as a potential contender, it kind of made me feel better about the NHL, Arda.
Absolutely. I love when the Detroit, especially a hockey market or a city that really gets behind the team. I feel the same way about many of the teams you mentioned, like the Sabres, the Buffalo Faithful. When that team is good and rocking, that's a great hockey town to watch games. Detroit, no different. Here's the thing. Alex DeBrincat on fire. 8 goals in 5 games. He could be a 50-goal scorer this season. Hold that thought for a little bit later in the show. But here's my question to you. For all that we've seen, the Yzer plan, perhaps ahead of schedule, maybe on plan, whatever the case may be, do you believe that this success from the Red Wings is sustainable?
Oh, that's a complicated question. You mentioned DeBrincat. I mean, the one thing that we can say right now is that they've got a line that is clicking like few are in the National Hockey League. Him and Dylan Larkin, along with Lucas Raymond. Larkin and DeBrincat didn't get off to the best start this season, but they clearly have chemistry. Larkin was joking the other day about the idea that those two played in summer league together for a few years. They had amazing success. Obviously, that's going to translate to the NHL. He was joking, but maybe it does. Who knows? Because I don't think that Dylan Larkin has had a line mate like DeBrincat before, a goal scorer of his magnitude, a guy that can find space on his own and make things happen. I don't think he's had that. And I also think DeBrincat hasn't had a guy like Larkin in a long time, you know, an in his prime young player. Reminds you when he was back in Chicago playing with Patrick Kane, for example. So having those two on the same line, I think is great, because sometimes in this league, Arda, you just need one line to really click and carry you. But let's talk about what's really going on under the hood here for a second, okay? And 5-on-5,
great Motor City reference, by the way. Great Motor City reference.
And again, DeBrincat and Dylan Larkin, high octane gasoline, baby. So 5-on-5, they're the best in the league right now. They're ranked number 1 overall in 5-on-5 efficiency, okay? But when you look at their expected goals 5-on-5, okay, they rank 22nd. So they are clearly outkicking their coverage there. The Larkin line is averaging 5.3 goals per 60 minutes right now as a unit, but 3.4 expected goals. So they're kind of outkicking their coverage a little bit too. Their power play is obviously not going to be rolling at 39% all season. We know that these things are cyclical. Doesn't mean it can't be super effective. They got incredible talent there, but obviously the power play has been a huge reason they've gotten off to the start, although they had an amazing 5-on-5 game over the weekend. I'm not sure that this team is always going to be able to outscore their problems this season, Arda, but I will say this. We have had teams in recent years like the New Jersey Devils and Seattle Kraken last year that got off the blocks, were offensively dominant, and then stayed that way, and were able to paper over some deficiencies in their lineup and some problems systemically in their process by simply outscoring their opponents. And maybe Detroit's that team this year. Maybe this won't be an aberration. Maybe we are looking at the Yzer plan coming to fruition. But if it does come to fruition, Arda, what's going to happen to this team? You know, if they are pushing for a wild card spot, are they going to be all in? Are they going to be the team that all of a sudden says the rebuild is over and we are ready to contend? Well, this is what Steve Yzerman had to say about that scenario before the season started.
Well, I think every team would love to make the playoffs, Ted. Again, we'd be thrilled to make the playoffs. Is it playoffs or bust? When you say playoffs or bust, I guess you're prepared to trade all your draft picks and whatever you have to do at some point. So no, it's not playoffs or bust, but we're gonna try to win every game and we're gonna try to make the playoffs. But it's to me, it's not at the expense of the future. Going to continue to repeat. Like I'm trying to build a nucleus of a team that can make the playoffs on an annual basis. You squeak in one year and you don't have the foundation to sustain it. We're going to be sitting here a year from now or 2 years from now, and you're going, going to be, wondering again. So I would love to make the playoffs. The whole city would. Every one of our players, everybody in our organization would love to, and we'll give it a shot.
And so you hear that the Yzer plan remains the Yzer plan. If they're in contention, hey, maybe they add a piece or that here or there like they have in the summer as far as veteran players go, but he's not going to mortgage the future for the present. It is still a long-term plan for the Detroit Red Wings, but so far, man, through 6 games, plan looks like it's working.
You have to respect Steve Yzerman and the Yzer plan, and just like the 76ers, hopefully with different results for the city of Detroit, they shall trust the process. Are they trusting the process, Wish, in the city of Edmonton, where the Oilers have gone on to a less than desirable start to begin the campaign, and now Connor McDavid will be out for 1 to 2 weeks? And listen, in the people that I've spoken to in the city of Edmonton, there is a sense of panic. I'm not saying it's 5 alarm just yet, but it does range. Some people are mild, others are already sounding the bells. So where should we be in terms of looking at this Oilers team and the way they started the season?
Well, Arda, for some of us that picked the Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup this season, I don't think panic quite does it justice. I am talking dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria right now about the Edmonton Oilers. A 1-3-1 start. McDavid's hurt. They're looking like they're going through the motions at times. They're making horrible mistakes against teams like the Philadelphia Flyers. McDavid had a turnover against the Flyers that led to a shorthanded goal by a guy named Sean Walker. Okay. Like, I don't know what is happening with Edmonton right now, but it is all falling apart very early. Listen to these stats. Okay. They are 26th in 5-on-5 right now. But the good news is they're 8th in expected 5-on-5. That tells you they're doing some good things, but not getting any results. That can be something you can hold on to, like when McDavid gets healthy. Here's what you can't hold on to: the puck. If you're an Edmonton goaltender, they're 31st in the league right now in goaltending. They have an .867 team save percentage. Every time you think either Stuart Skinner or Jack Campbell is going to solidify the crease, it all comes tumbling down. You've got Evander Kane doing between periods interviews in Canada, talking about the lack of ice time he's getting in the first period and saying, I might as well have a fight because I'm not going to play anyway. Arda, the vibes are bad. The vibes are very bad in Edmonton right now.
Yeah, I tried to temper them in my setup to this, but you're right. The vibes are very bad. And that leads to the question, what will happen if the vibes continue like this? What will happen in terms of do we see a shakeup in the roster? Do we see a shakeup in coaching? More specifically, obviously when something like this happens, and let's be clear, like the weight of the world is on the shoulders of the Edmonton Oilers. Like it is cup or bust for that team, especially with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, the season starting. And I wonder, I mean, like with Jay Woodcroft, not that it's a fair question to ask, but like if this continues, is that where people are going to look, Wish, and say maybe we need to make a coaching change?
Yeah, completely. I mean, the stakes are too high. Like we said at the beginning of the season, the reason why a lot of us picked Edmonton to win the cup is because it's obvious that McDavid and Draisaitl are disgusted by a lack of success in the playoffs. Well, maybe the remedy for that disgust is not making the playoffs, because that's on the table right now for this team, the way it's playing. The stakes are too high. Jay Woodcroft's going to be on the hottest of hot seats. The issue for me, though, in making a coaching change, Arda, is always, what is the solution? What is the next step? Who do you bring in that's going to be the improvement on Jay Woodcroft? And I don't quite know the answer, because you need someone that's going to be able to manage the star power, manage the egos on this roster, but also get their attention enough to get this team playing a playoff quality of hockey, especially on the defensive side in front of that goaltending. So I don't have the answer as to who could replace him. I just know if things continue to spiral for this team over the next 3 weeks, as we head towards that critical moment of American Thanksgiving where you best be in a playoff spot, I think Jay Woodcroft is status is tenuous at this point.
My concern with choosing a new coach, if let's just imagine the scenario, okay, we don't wish people losing their jobs. Let's just imagine the Oilers were looking for a new coach. The situation that they are in, and this conversation always happens, let's give new coaches a try. Jay Woodcroft himself was a new coach new head coach in the NHL, joining the Edmonton Oilers, right? I feel like that situation is ripe for a long tenured, let's recycle the same names kind of coach, specifically one that has playoff success that isn't in the NHL right now. To me, that's the first place that might be looked at, and we're going to have that conversation all over again.
Look, the first place that's going to be looked at, it's going to be to go to the National Hockey League and see if Joel Quenneville has done his penance. Like, that's the first thing they're going to do. That's the first thing I would do if I was Ken Holland and my job was on the line. It's the first thing, maybe the first thing that the organization wants to do. I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'm not saying it's the moral thing to do, because it certainly might not be. But I'm saying that that's probably the first call they make, knowing that he's been on a multi-year path to redemption, and to see if the NHL has decided to give the blessing for him to return behind the bench.
Well, we'll see what happens with the Oilers. I have a theory. Speaking of Connor McDavid, even though he will be out for a short period of time, I have a theory that in part has to do with Connor McDavid. Last year, he had 60-plus goals, incredible season. He shot more. I look at the NHL and I look at scoring, and I believe this season is a perfect season to break the record for most 50-goal scorers in a single campaign.
Wow.
Now, why am I saying this? Two reasons. Number one, scoring is up. We know this. Scoring right now is at a high clip, highest we've ever seen since 1994. 3.13 goals or 3.18 goals a season on average. And we haven't seen those numbers since the 90s. The record currently for most 50-goal scorers in a season was that unicorn 92-93 season. There were 14 different 50-goal scorers. I believe when you look at the list of players that either were 50-goal scorers or in the vicinity within 10 goals, you could make the case that we will absolutely see 15 50-goal scorers. Let me present you a list. Okay, Please. Let me quickly go through this list. Connor McDavid had 64 last season. Even if he takes a little bit of time off, he shoots even remotely close to what he shot last year, he's going to be in the 50-goal category. Leon Draisaitl, very similar. He cracked 50, he'll get there. That's 2. David Pastrnak, he had 61. I'm putting him on my list. 3. Mikko Rantanen, he can definitely repeat. A wild card, Nathan McKinnon, for the purposes of my conversation here, I put him in the maybe pile, but I'm going to present you some names as I go along the way, and you can parse this when I'm done here, but he's in that pile where if he did get 50, you wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, McKinnon got 50? So that's why I'm putting him in the maybe pile. We'll put it at 5 for now. Tage Thompson at 47, bump up 3 extra goals. We're at 6.
Oh, okay.
Jack Hughes had 43 last year. I think he's going to get 50 goals and 100 points for the New Jersey Devils. He's my Sneaky Heart Trophy pick. That's 7. Jason Robertson had 46 last season. I could put Robo down for 4 more goals. Kirill Kaprizov had 40, but only played 67 games last season. He's got that chemistry with Matt Zuccarello on lock. That is one of the best 1-2 punches in the league. Could he get to 50? Could you imagine it? You absolutely could.
Absolutely.
Austin Matthews only had 40 last season. That's a slow year for him. He could get to 60 again. He's already had 6 goals. He got 2 back-to-back hat tricks to start the year. Put him down for 50. William Nylander is playing on a contract year.
Oh, wow.
He's a 2-time 40-goal scorer. Could you not imagine a world where William Nylander gets 50 goals in a season?
Well, I don't think the Toronto media can imagine that world, but we can here.
I can imagine it, so I'm putting him down as a maybe. And listen, this is you'll see where I'm going when I get to 15. Alex DeBrincat could score 50 and 50. We just talked about him. 8 goals in 5 games. Is it sustainable? Whatever. For the purposes of my argument here, he could very well be a 50-goal scorer. Sure. I haven't even talked about Alex Ovechkin. Slow start. Maybe he's the one that drops off on this list. Maybe he's a 30-goal guy, a 40-goal guy, whatever the case may be. But I would never count him out for being a possible 50-goal guy, especially what he's done in his mid to late 30s in the NHL. So that's why he always will get consideration for me. How about this name? Cole Caulfield, 26 goals in 46 games last season. He could absolutely rip 50 on a healthy year. And then that's 14 names. I didn't even talk about guys like Braden Point, Kucherov, Stamkos, Mark Scheifele, Carter Verhaeghe, Adrian Kempe, Jared McCann, Timo Meier, Tim Stützle, Mika Zibanejad, Matthew Tkachuk, Elias Pettersson, or Andrei Kuzmenko. All those guys sniffed around the 40 mark last season. And I didn't even talk about the rookies. Not that it would be easy for a rookie to get 50 in a season. Only 4 have done it. But if there's one guy that could be Connor Bedard. So that's my case for us seeing 15 possible 50-goal scorers this season in the NHL.
I think I like the field more than I like Nylander and Caulfield on that list, although I think you should probably subtract Timo Meier from that field. The Ovechkin one's interesting, though, dude, because now we're starting to see games where Ovi is not getting a shot on goal, which is the most uncharacteristic thing. Like, set aside, like, not scoring goals, like not getting a shot on goal in, like, I think it was consecutive games, is like unheard of in his career. So I'm a little bit concerned there, but look, man, I don't think your list is all that off as far as the guys that could potentially do it. My concern right now is that despite offense having climbed year over year, it's a little bit down off of last year, 3.18 last year, 3.15 through 81 games this year. Now, a lot of that has to do with power play proficiency. And right now the kills are ahead of the power play this season versus in previous seasons. It's still quite high, though. It's over 20%. I think we'll see us around 3.18 goals again, maybe. I hope. I don't want to see offensive regression, but I do think that we have to just keep our eye on the tide turning. Did we reach the high water mark of offense in this league last season, and then we're going to see a slight turn back to the more defensive side? If so, it's definitely going to hurt your 50-goal theory. But that being said, it's very early, and we could certainly see offensives continue to explode in this league.
I'm going to keep the optimism wish, and I'm going to call this back throughout the season, and I will just assume that we will get there. All right, 15 50-goal scorers. It's out there in the universe, and now it's up to the NHL players to make it happen. You know what is happening, Wish, is every single NHL team will be playing on Tuesday. Only one other time in NHL history had all 32 teams stepped on the ice on the same night, but never 15 minutes apart. Every 15 minutes, the puck will drop on a different game. A very unique situation, very exciting for fans of hockey and fans of the NHL. And at the center of it all, in studio to cover everything post to post, shot for shot, will be John Buccigross, who joins us now on the drop.
All right, hockey fans, hockey heaven is upon us. On Tuesday, every single team in the National Hockey League, all 32, will be playing on the ice. Puck drop staggered every 15 minutes. And the pièce de résistance at ESPN will be the Frozen Frenzy, a whip around show where you won't miss any puck drop, any hit, any goal, any penalty shot, any fight, any empty net. No matter what it is, you will see it on Frozen Frenzy, and that will be spearheaded, that will be steered, that will be anchored by the one and only John Buccigross, who joins us on the drop right now. Bucci, you've had a lot of great moments in your career at ESPN, but this has got to be at the top, one of the top of the lists, my friend.
Yeah, it's unique. People are excited about it. I hope we can pull it off. There were 15 games on Saturday, so it was a good kind of warm up. I was on my couch all day. Now they weren't staggered like they're staggered for us, so it was a little different. But it was a good warm up just to kind of sit there all day long, and plus just good for homework to start to get the narrative of these teams, the early storylines each team has, the temperature, how they feel, how they're going. So it was a good primer a bit. This time I'll just be in a suit on television with makeup on with Kevin Weeks. Other than that, it'll be the exact same thing as Saturday was.
And by the way, don't ever say that your friends at ESPN haven't given you nothing, man. You guys have been asking for staggered start times on games since I first glimpsed hockey on television on Sports Channel in the 1980s. And now finally, there's a night where every 15 minutes there's a new game. So that's pretty dope. Bucci, you're a man that wears many hats. You're wearing one now. And, you've been a play-by-play guy. You've been a Sports Center anchor. You've done intermission shows. You've done The Point. How does preparation for something like this compare to preparation for all those other gigs?
Well, the only way to prepare for this is to watch hockey just about every night for the past 10 years. That's it, which I've done. I've done it for the last 20 years. So, I don't watch TV shows. People would talk about, hey, do you see The Wire last night? Did you see Sopranos last night? It's like, no, I was watching Canucks Ducks at 10 o'clock on Sunday night. I want to see Marcus Nassel and Todd Bertuzzi back in the day. So, yeah, it's watching all those games, knowing the numbers, know which way a guy shoots, where they went to school, where they might have been drafted, things like that you have a pretty good base of knowledge. And obviously you can quickly to find out the exact or to check on yourself to make sure. But, yeah, it's really just living and loving the game for a long period of time. I think that's the only way you can really prepare for it. You're not going to prepare for it really in a week. So we have good stat people, we have good producers, and they certainly can support you. But for the most part, it's living and loving the game. And that's what me and Weeksy do. Me and Kevin Weeks are both hockey nerds. We love everything about it. And so we're probably the right two guys for the job.
Now, listen, in my defense, if I didn't watch The Sopranos, that's grounds for revocation of my citizenship in New Jersey. So I had to watch it. I'm there on Ducks Canucks with you if I didn't have to watch it.
And I've watched it since, but back then you had to watch a show live. Right. There wasn't really on demand yet. So now we can watch all these things when there aren't hockey games. So that's what's good. I have a large inventory of TV to catch up on. Where some people are like, I've watched everything. I've watched nothing. So I have so much cool stuff to catch up. Like my pandemic show was The Office. I'd never watched The Office. So that was yeah. So again, I'm watching hockey. So so that was my big show during and I went through the whole thing, and it was interesting, it was fun, and it was that was my TV thing. So I have a lot more shows of those to watch. Retirement's going to be great for me. Lots of movies, lots of TV shows.
And lots of golf, right? Absolutely.
A little bit, yeah.
See, that's Letterkenny for me. I have to watch it to maintain my Canadianism. Bucci, pull the curtain a little bit. Will there be commercial breaks during Frozen Frenzy, or are you going to have to hold it in for 6.5 hours?
Yeah, I have a diaper. I purchased a diaper just in case. But yeah, I think there's 3 2-minute breaks in an hour. So it is not quite commercial free. We do have to pay the electricity bill to ESPN. It's a big one. There's a lot of lights there. But yeah, not very many. So it is very limited. Like I said, I believe there's only 3 2-minute breaks, which is great. And so we need to be prepared. I need to be careful about the liquid intake. I will try to manage that, but we will have time for. I think the bathroom is about 100 feet away, so we'll be good. We'll be able to pull it off.
The real MVP, empty bottles on set at the Frozen Frenzy. All right. Well, we've figured out this TV thing. It's going to be amazing. It's an unprecedented night, and I know everybody's going to be strapped in watching it. But let's talk about the product on the ice for a moment. Earlier in the show, we were talking about the Detroit Red Wings, who I know are an apple of your eye. Are you a believer in the Wings? Do you out of Detroit, Ottawa, Buffalo, that troika of teams in the Atlantic that we all assumed one of them would break out this year? Are you now assuming it's going to be the Red Wings that break out?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Before the season, someone asked me, I think on Twitter, are they going to make the playoffs? I was like, I don't think so. I go, they got a lot of stuff. Like these last 2-3 off seasons, they just went out and got a lot of stuff. I don't know if they thought about how it worked together. Hey, give me an Andrew Kopp, give me a JT Compher, David Perron, throw him in there. Just like a bunch of stuff. But in the end, it looks like it's kind of working. Again, we've seen teams get off to good starts. Buffalo, back in the day, and then boom, things can happen. A couple injuries, a bad goalie. You've lost 9 of 10, and then here we are again. So you don't know. But I knew, I figured DeBrincat would have a big year, 40-goal year. That's a good team for him to play on, and he's just a great player. He's in the prime of his life. So, but yeah, looking at them and how they're dominating 5-on-5, and how they are a very mature, grown-up team, even young mature, like those Larkin players are like young mature. They have all these games under their belt, but they're still 26, 27 years old, so they're still young and will probably stay healthy and have good energy for much of the year and play back-to-backs well and all that stuff that you don't get in the playoffs. So you can be older in the playoffs because you don't play back-to-back, stuff like that. But I do think that they sure look like a team building this base of points can then steer, and they're going to add, whether it's Patrick Kane or whether it's another D-man or even a goalie. Once Steve Yzerman can smell the playoffs, and I think they were getting tired of not making them. That's one reason why they stepped on the gas these last 2 years or went to the garage sale and just give me that one of those and one of those and one of those. We'll see if it matches when we get back to the house. I think that was their idea, and now it looks like it might work.
Bucci, my Stanley Cup final prediction, many people's Stanley Cup final prediction was Leafs and Oilers. How close are those fan bases to pressing the panic button after their starts to the season?
I like the Leafs. I think they've been pretty good 5-on-4. Again, they have a tweak left in them where they'll be better by the deadline, whether it be obviously a big D-man possibly, but I still think the Leafs are a dangerous team that can formulate into an Eastern champion if possible. Edmonton, obviously, right now is just the worst of starts. Starts don't matter, finishes do. But yeah, it's still. I did the game the other night in Philadelphia. They just don't look like a Stanley Cup champion to me. They don't look like a roster that could beat Colorado in a best of 7, even Vegas again in a best of 7. 2 teams they've lost to the last 2 years. Those 2 teams still look really good. They seem about the same. So for now, I don't know about that final. I still think Toronto has a chance. I still have hope in them, but Edmonton, it's not looking good right now. Things are going to have to change quickly.
Bucci, the drop is nothing if not a haven for hot takery.
Ooh.
And so the other day you tweeted a video of a penalty between in the Ottawa-Detroit game that had you fuming. You said that this is now considered roughing in the NHL. You said the referees are, quote, doing their best to fire extinguish an entertaining physical game filled with hits and chirping. And boy, do we love reading that kind of thing from you, Bucci. The floor is yours. Tell us about how the physicality in this game is being legislated out by the Zebras on a nightly basis.
Well, this was game 1 of the 15 game day, so I was looking forward to it. It wasn't quite staggered like we're getting on Tuesday, but so those Saturday afternoon games, they can be really sleepy. The players can be sleepy. The crowd can be sleepy. They can be a really blah game. Those Saturday afternoon games. I remember I went to a Bruin Hartford Whaler game back in the old Boston Garden. Probably was 1991. And I just remember that game being just a terrible game. There weren't many terrible games back then in the Garden between Hartford and Boston. But it had nothing to it. The players were probably hungover. The fans were hungover. It just had no zip. But this Ottawa-Detroit game, Lyndon Byers was out till 4 a.m. in Harvard Square. He wasn't going to be forechecking that day. But that game this Ottawa Detroit game had so much juice. DeBrincat's return, and what I loved about it was old school. The Ottawa players were taking it personally. They were all going after DeBrincat. Like, I love that kind of stuff. Everyone has played together now since they were 12 years old on a team at some point. All these young NHL players. There's not a lot of real hate anymore. It's like a little bit, and then we hug. Yeah, I'll see you at the wedding next year. They all go to each other's weddings now. It's just a whole different world. So it was so cool to see that. And they were really hitting. They were going. It was old school hate, and you could see there. And early on, the refs did take one out of a scrum, which I'm cool. That's good. Yeah. Give an early power play, but then the hitting continued, and then that little push on the upper chest of DeBrincat that I thought was just a good hard hit. They called roughing. Obviously, they were trying to lower the temperature. I'm like, no, we need to raise the temperature. It's like when a fan runs on the field during a baseball game, and the TV telecast doesn't show it. So what we do, we go to the internet and we look at our phones where we're streaming or we're online. It's like the TV people need to fight back. We need to fight back in this, and like, no, we're going to show the fan who runs and gets housed by the security guard. Otherwise, we're going to go away and turn our eyes away from the TV. People are still going to do it, whether he showed it or not. Obviously, they still are. TV's never showed it, and people still run in the field. So why wouldn't TV just show it? Why turn people away from your product? And I thought that game had great battle. I thought they were trying to lower it. No, don't lower it. Raise it. The players always talk about policing the game. Here you go. You do something crazy, it's your fault, not my fault. I don't write the rules as a referee. I just enforce them.
# rant. But your point at the end of that tweet was about attendance. Like, is getting away from these moments where the temperature is turned up, when there is the inherent violence and vitriol that comes with this sport. When you try to mute that, is it actually hurting the appeal of the product? I do think, like, you and I both have watched a different form of the National Hockey League back in the day, right? But like,
all of us, yeah.
There's a middle ground. There's a middle ground between the Jack Hughes, Trevor Zegras NHL that we have now and what we used to have like 15 years ago. There's a middle ground, and I feel like I agree with you that I think that they are very overly cautious NFL roughing the passer right now when it comes to some of this physicality, and it doesn't need to be like that because people do want it.
Yeah, there's all 1,300 games, right? Over 1,300. They're all not going to be good. And I get the concussion issue and lawsuits, and I get that. That's a tricky line that a league and a corporation, a $4 billion company has to deal with. But there's a lot of competition out there now with sports. MLS growing, women's sports are growing. There's a lot of competition. People can't spend their money on everything. You got to remember, what you like, what the physicality, the UFC, NASCAR angle that the NHL kind of has. A little dangerous, but danger is good. Danger is interesting. So yeah, it's a fine line, and I can get emotional. As we know, I'm half Italian, half Irish, so there's no chance I'm not going to get a little emotional sometimes.
Nevertheless, still a very entertaining product, and Tuesday will be very entertaining. It starts with the Leafs in Washington.
I love the game.
Exactly. This is why we have the best jobs in the world. Leafs and Capitals starts off the 15-minute staggered starts at 6 o'clock, and then the surging red-hot Philadelphia Flyers will meet the reigning Cup champs, the Vegas Golden Knights, to end the night. That's an 11 o'clock Eastern start, and John Buccigross and Kevin Weeks will be in studio for the entire thing. Frozen Frenzy on ESPN Plus and ESPN2. This is going to be great. I can't wait to watch it. I'll be doing cut-ins, so I'll have to watch it after the fact, but I can't wait to see how that all goes. But Bucci, you've been great with your time, man. Thanks for joining us on The Drop. Please come back.
Love The Drop. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Bucci. All right. Best to John Buccigross, best to Kevin Weeks, as they take on the Frozen Frenzy and a massive amount of games, which I know that you're all going to be watching from the first puck drop to the last whistle. And if you are, you're going to need to keep yourself hydrated. Folks, it is time for the Frozen Frenzy non-alcoholic drinking game. Obviously, we expect you all to participate in this by grabbing a tall glass of milk, or most likely a nice energy drink to keep your spirits up during a long night of hockey. But we wanted to give you something to play along with as you're watching all these games. Arda, what is the one drink category in the Frozen Frenzy non-alcoholic drinking game here on The Drop?
Mine will be a sugar-free beverage, for the record. We have categories. So we have 1 drink, 2 drink, 3 drinks, and chug. I can't wait to see what's in chug. The one drink category begins with if a power play goal is scored. Now, hold on a second. Is this like one full drink? Like you're going to have to chug your glass of milk?
Sip.
Or just a sip. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a modest sip if there's a power play
a
goal
dainty,
scored. At
pinky
any
out, modest sip if there's a power play goal scored. Because Arda, if there are 32 teams playing, there's a chance we're going to see a few power play goals.
Maybe we'll see 0, Wish. Who knows? Okay.
Oh.
You can't predict the future. Yes. If a power play goal is scored, that's one sip. And if a road team wins, so there's a maximum of 16 opportunities here, you will take one sip. So that's the one drink category. How about the two drinks category?
2 drinks. If there is a coach's challenge on a goal, successful, unsuccessful, who cares? If Bucci and Weeksy are doing their red zone thing and looking at a stoppage and play with a bunch of zebras surrounding an iPad, you take yourself 2 drinks. If more than one team scores at exactly the same time, so we got all these games in multi-view, the boys are watching the games, they're waiting for highlights to happen. If you see one goal and then boom, another goal scored in another game, that's a 2-drinker as well.
I would like to add, if there's a coach's challenge, that's a 2-drinker. If the coach's challenge is successful, that's a chug.
All right. Look at that. Okay. So coach's challenge on its own, 2 drinks.
Yep.
If the coach's challenge is successful, well, just take that big old tall glass of milk in your hand and down that bad boy, because that is a chuggaroo.
All right. That's a chuggaroo. And I hope it's chocolate milk for everyone out there. More than one team scores at the same time. Like you said, that's a 2-drink. That's a 2-chug, or no, a 2-sip, pardon me. 3 drinks. There's a penalty shot. Where would you put the over under on penalty shots on Tuesday? 1.5?
I would put it at 0.5. I wouldn't be surprised if we got through this entire night without a penalty shot.
Interesting. I'll take the over on that. I'll take the over.
Okay. All right. I love it.
Okay. So there's a penalty shot. That will be a 3-drinker. And if someone scores a hat trick, much more likely, then that's also a 3-drinker. One for each goal.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm going to add to this, Wish.
Yeah.
If they score a 4th goal and a 5th goal, that will then become a 4-drinker and a 5-drinker. So any amount after 3, you have to drink that amount.
I love it. I love it. And with the existence of Alistair Brinkett and Austin Matthews playing on the Frozen Frenzy night, I think the hat trick is on the table. Finally, we get to chug. Keep in mind, I am still contemplating how a man who said that he is going to be drinking non-sugar beverages just encouraged the entire listenership of the show to drink chocolate milk.
What's wrong with chocolate milk? What do you got against chocolate milk?
I'm simply saying that I believe you are trying to kill the rest of us and be I Am Legend on the face of planet Earth with your non-sugar beverages. The chug is only one thing outside of the thing we mentioned before. Chug if there's a goalie goal. There's always the potential that we're going to see these guys go for the empty net if their team is up by multiple goals late in the game. We've got 16 chances for it to happen. When I play non-alcoholic drinking games, I like to make sure that the chug is something exceptional, that the chug is something that is extraordinary, that if it happens, you go, I can't believe I just saw it. And then you just down your beverage in one gulp. And friends, a goalie goal, the rarest of birds in the National Hockey League. If it happens, well, you take that drink and you make it empty.
If there's a goalie goal, I expect everyone to pull a Kurt Angle and bust out the milk truck with the giant hose and just spray milk everywhere. All their friends and family, themselves, everyone's milkomania.
Oh, yeah. And that's a thing, man. So what was the other chug? The chug was successful. If there's a successful coach's challenge, or there's a goalie goal, find me and Arda on the Twitter machine or other social media and send us a video of you chugging. Those are the 2 provisions. Successful coach's challenge or goalie goal. We want to see the videos of you downing your non-alcoholic drinking game beverage and seeing how you've celebrated these amazing occurrences during the Frozen Frenzy.
So there you have it. Even more fun to be had during Hockey Heaven on Tuesday. 15 minutes. That's how long it will take for another puck to drop in another game. It'll be a lot of fun. Make sure you're locked into Frozen Frenzy. By the way, 3 exclusive games on ESPN as well. It'll be Steve Levy, Mark Messier, and PK Subban in studio for all 3 of those games. And then Bucci and Weeksy for Frozen Frenzy over on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus. Thank you very much for watching The Drop. We'll postmortem for the Tuesday series of action or series of games, all the action, and a lot more. Remember, Tuesdays and Thursdays, wherever you get your podcasts, and the NHL and ESPN YouTube. Thank you very much, and enjoy your chocolate milk as you watch Frozen Frenzy.
Thanks, folks.